Yay. All right. Well, good day, Wyoming, and thank you for joining me. It is my pleasure to get to be doing this grant, bringing attention and knowledge about culture change to Wyoming. It is my pleasure to get to work with all of you, and I really mean that. And thank you all for taking this in, joining us, being part of the project in many different ways. I will refer to more of our grant project toward the end. And today, this idea was suggested by someone. They kind of brought up that connectedness is an issue right now. You know, good grief. I contend it was even before a pandemic. Anybody else? But how about through a pandemic? And then, you know, visiting is on, visiting's off, out of your room, in your room. So thankfully, visiting's on now. Yay. However, I contend this still is, I don't want to say an issue. I hate that. It's so negative. But I contend that connectedness is something that maybe we all can do more about. How do you like that? And how do you like my title? What if everyone became a connectedness coordinator? I just think that's so much fun. So thank you for joining me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as we go in the chat box and at the end. So I actually want to start pointing out some language here. Leaders in the culture change movement early on, and particularly in the Eden Alternative, pointed out that the word social distancing is not quite right. I would even say wrong if I could, but you know, I don't want to be judgmental. So what if we called it what it really is? It really is physical distancing, isn't it? And why would I even draw attention to this? Because we must hold on to the social, even if in name only. Do you see what we're saying? The physical distancing is hurting the social. So for heaven's sake, at the very least, let's not call it social distancing. So I'd love to invite all of you to consider that language. It really fits better if you start to think about it, and then see the whole content of this time together is how to create more social connectedness. Wow, there is physical distancing. And I would say even again, before and after a pandemic. So I don't know why I love to take on a challenge. How about you? And you know, the whole premise of changing institutional culture tends to be kind of doing things the opposite. So I've just had fun challenging all of us to flip what's happening and somehow maybe take advantage of the moment and make it even better. So I'm going to give you tons of ideas. Take those that work for you. Share some more at the end if you think of some. Maybe try some. Let me know how it goes. I really appreciate that. Hopefully this will prompt your own idea sharing. And then I've always thought too, everyone, and learned in the culture change movement to just try some things. whether you just make the decision, come on, go do it. Why not? You know, sometimes these things just take too long. And so whatever your job is, I don't care. Maybe try some of these things. Don't wait for someone else to do it. All right. So moving along, here we go. If you were a connectedness coordinator, what would your day look like? Isn't that fun to think about? Let's pretend someone gave you that job, and your job now every day is to connect people. What would your day look like? That is so challenging and fun to me, and it's really excited a lot of people. And so just think for a minute, what would your day look like? And what would your job be? What would your job description be? And perhaps each of us will end up with unique ideas, but also maybe we'll end up with the same ideas. So see what you think. And I think one place to start, at least I would be to actually consider creating a connectedness plan for each resident. So if you haven't done that yet, you know, isn't that funny? I just realized during the pandemic, what I saw most homes do, particularly in the activities and recreation team, was give out a lot of like crossword puzzles and the daily news, right? And I'm not saying that any of that is wrong, but isn't that interesting? Maybe what the COVID plan should have been was like a connectedness plan. And notice we did do a lot with helping residents see, neighbors see people they wanted to see through Zoom. I've got some great stories. I'm sure you do too. But what would a plan for connectedness look like for each person? And maybe while I talk, you could just think about one resident you serve, or if you're with someone, the two of you kind of ponder one resident throughout this whole time and see what kind of a plan you come to. And sorry, back to the word connectedness. I maybe should have started here. It actually does come from somewhere. I know it's a word, but the Eden Alternative got a grant many years ago, and a group of very smart culture change leaders got together and actually identified what they call the 7 domains of well-being, and connectedness is one of them. So I just want to also give Eden Alternative credit here. And if you would like to learn more about all of that, there's a white paper you can get at their website. They also offer these 3 separate surveys. One is a well-being assessment for the elder care partners. One is a well-being assessment for employee care partners. That's their word. And then another for family care partners. Okay. And the 7 domains of well-being also made it into the CMS regulations when the regulations came out new. Here's a trivia question. What year did the regs come out? The new regs. Anybody know? And I'll try to get to that at the end. Help me remember, okay? Pardon me. And I should have done another trivia question. Who knows what regulation the 7 domains of well-being landed in? And the reg is 679 activities. And where you find it is in the intent. So there's the regulation line, but the very next thing is intent. And it shows up there. And I was shocked when I saw it. Nobody knew they were going to do this. So what is the intent of the activities regulation? Let's just jump to that part. To create opportunities for each resident to have a meaningful life by supporting his or her domains of well-being, security, autonomy, growth, connectedness, identity, joy, and meaning. Those are the 7. And they've told us, CMS Division of Nursing Homes has told us that they will improve this in a next iteration of the regs. It should have the Eden Alternative website and their trademark, etc. But they are the 7 as identified by the Eden Alternative. So maybe use that to your advantage, everyone. These are in the regs. Maybe we should do something about them. What do you think? And so I just love getting to tell you that. And then we'll use the definition that the Eden Alternative uses. So what is connectedness? The state of being connected, alive, belonging, engaged, love that word, involved, not detached. Oh, very good. Connected to the past, the present, and the future. Wow. Connected to personal possessions, connected to place, and connected to nature. So let's just take a minute. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. What does that look like for someone living in the nursing home that you represent? Are people in a state of being connected? One thing I learned early on in the culture change movement that just made my jaw hang open was one group of homes was really focused on making sure everyone who lives there knows that they're expected. Like if someone's moving in, let's say they're expected, or you left for a while and everyone wondered where you were, or you know what I mean? Like you're loved and expected. So curious, do you think people feel that way in your home? How about alive? Oh my goodness. Particularly people living with dementia. Do they feel alive or not alive? Remember the music focus, memory, music, and memory and music. Help me. Have you all seen Henry on YouTube? What's it called even? It's called, oh dear, it's escaping me. Alive Again? Help me if anybody knows. But that's the point. Music brought him alive again. Belonging. Do people feel like they belong? I hope so. And probably in many cases, the people who live where you work would probably say this, but it's something to really consider and look through the lens of, quality assurance. Are they engaged or not? Do people just attend groups? That's different than being engaged. When I was a surveyor, I watched my sample resident one day years ago be taken, literally be taken, not invited, not even talked to a big group event. Nobody engaged her. I think it was an entertainer probably, and then taken back to her room. And you know what I saw, everyone, in my mind's eye? All it was a check mark. She attended a group. Don't let it be about attending the group, right? Don't let it be about the check mark. Are people truly engaged or not? We're not saying busy. We're not saying occupied. You know, we're not saying fidgeting. We're saying meaningfully engaged. Are they involved? Involved means I'm involved. This is my home, and people actually treat me like it's my home. Did you know some people are involved in budget decisions in the nursing home where they live? I'm going to tell you about that next month in the community meetings training. How about not detached? Wow. Look around. Do people look detached or look not detached? And then connected to past, present, and future. I just have a beautiful story that depicts this. A home that I've worked with in Perm, Minnesota, a little town, kind of central north Minnesota. Do any of you know this, that town is famous for the international turtle races? Did any of you know that? Sometimes people do. Depends on where you're from. And get this, tourists come to Perm, Minnesota every Wednesday. They get in a long line to get a ticket. They get a number. And when your number's called, you get to go pick out a turtle, a real turtle, out of the buckets. No thanks. And then there's 10 of you that get into the ring, and you, on your mark, you set your turtle down, and whichever turtle, gets out to the outer ring wins. And then there's a final round, and you win a prize if your turtle won the race. And the reason I bring it up is this, believe it or not, what a gift. I was visiting someone that I know and love who now lived in a nursing home in Perm, Minnesota. And it happened to be the same day that they came with the turtles, and they had the turtle races at the nursing home. And here's my point. It wasn't fake turtles. It wasn't even some other turtles. It was the same turtles. Isn't that wonderful? And to me, that's like such a beautiful gift of being connected to your community. Something in Perm is famous in the past and the present, and they're planning to do it in the future. Another neat story from the same nursing home. This nursing home did a big transition to the household model. And I'm trying to think if I've shown these pictures. They have, for instance, a poster of the Comet Drive-In. The Comet doesn't exist anymore, sadly, but a lot of those older people went to the Comet Drive-In in that area. Isn't that fun? And then they also made a point to put out a notice in the newspaper asking the whole community if they were interested to donate artifacts and antiques along the lines of different themes, particularly the area. So one household is called Harvest Glen, and it has a farming theme. Another household is, I should know these by heart. One of them is more of a lake theme. And so they have lake artifacts, not fake, not toys, the real things. You see oars on the wall, you see fishing nets on the wall, the resort sign from somewhere on the wall. And I just want to point out what a wonderful way to stay connected and be in the present and the past and the future where you live, where you're living in the nursing home. And then I feel like, another neat thing they did, they use photos of the area, and some of the photos are from the past. And then get this, they did a replica of some of those past photos. So for instance, two women are standing next to the lantern on the main street, and then two other women who work at the nursing home did the same picture. Wow, past, present, and future. I just challenge you, what else could you do to help those who live where you work be connected, not only to the community, but the past and the present and the future? Wow. And then of course, connected to your possessions, everyone. I just want to, this is going to come up. I'm going to bring this up again. And then connected to place. Are they connected to where they now live, to this home, to your neighborhood where the nursing home is? We could even start with, how about neighborhood, home, and then neighborhood again in the community where your nursing home sits, and then of course the wider community, the town, the city, and then connected to nature. Oh my. Personally, I want to live outside. Anybody else? So just take me as the highest example that I want to be outside all the time if I can. And so if it's raining, I might still want to go out with an umbrella. If it's cold, I might still want to go out for a while, all bundled up. And then yes, let's have hot chocolate. You know, let the going outside be the event. Make a big deal of it. Get ready, go, you know, if people want to, but don't write it off that they don't want to. Enjoy coming in, hot chocolate, fireplace if you've got one. By the way, the Life Safety Code 2012 allows for electric fireplaces. Did you know that? I know it's not a real one, but it's something. and I also recommend to consider care planning for every single person who lives there, their desire to go outside. Do they have the desire or not? When do they like to go? How do they like to go? What do they like to do? And that is also on the artifacts tool. So we're going to go through what could be points to a connectedness plan for anybody. And I just want to start with the telephone. How do you like that? You know, I've just kind of come to realize that many older people, they know exactly what to do with the phone. They don't know exactly what to do with a tablet or a laptop necessarily, or Zoom. So I hope you all have done this, but don't forget to just consider the good old fashioned telephone. I think it's a big win. Everyone knows what to do with it. So now go through it. Does this person have one or not? Do they know how to use it or not? Do they need your help? Do they have the phone numbers handy, whatever that means to them? Is it on a little notebook nearby? Is it in the phone itself? You know, is this phone easily accessible? Where do you keep it? Can the person easily find it, see it, etc.? I would just point blank start with the phone. Then I would move on to the whole idea of a video call. Do they have a tablet or do you? That could be used. Do they have a laptop or do you? That could be used. And could they do it right over their own phone if they have a phone that does that? Do they know how? Do they need your help? Do they need teaching? Do you need to set up times? I mean, you know how to do this even better than me. And I'm sure you all have stories. I'd love to hear yours, but I just happen to know about an elder living with dementia, really missed her husband who came every day. And the team initially thought the internet would be confusing. And I don't know, I just said one day to them, you know what, or to the social worker I was working with, I said, you know, if you think about it, people are very used to the TV. Like we are kind of used to looking at screens. We're used to looking at photos. Probably a lot of older people are used to looking at videos even, right? So why wouldn't it be at least worth a try? It feels like there's potential. And the next thing I knew was I got an email, Zoom chat indeed was a hit. She turned toward her husband when she heard his voice and smiled. So did he. And then this nurse apparently tried to get in and say hi. And the wife said, get out, okay? Living with dementia, get out. So I think that worked well for her. May not be everybody, but if you haven't tried it with certain people, maybe it's worth just trying and see how it goes. In fact, guess what? That has reminded me of something that's not on the slide, so I have to tell you now. Guess what? Even a picture on a pillow is being well received. So an older person receiving a pillow with the face of maybe the spouse who's passed away, it's all over the internet. If you want to look that up, it is being very well received. So that too, you know, used to looking at a photo might be meaningful and connect someone to their past, I guess, in that scenario. And then of course, can you help someone keep in their Bible study group or maybe some group that used to take place right in your home? An activity director friend of mine was doing painting with the artist over Zoom during the heart of the pandemic. You know, but could this be expanded and look at it per person? Is there any group they belong to? Did they belong to the Elks Club? Could they Zoom into the Elks Club meeting? Why not? You know, now most people are used to doing Zoom. So maybe we could connect some older people with the clubs and the groups that they once were a part of more than we ever have. I just thought of that. Go for it, guys. Then how about taking grandma or grandpa, let's say, to the grandchildren's recitals and plays and musicals and concerts and games? Why not? We know how to do this now, live stream, right? Another fun idea, you probably saw this last Christmas, I heard, did you hear about, let's say, the staff members were the deer in the forest, and the people living there were given the Nerf guns and they went hunting. I've also heard that in a preschool setting with elders over Zoom. And I kind of turned the idea into I Spy, like you could do I Spy, and the elders could say, I spy, a princess, or like you could do costumes or something, all sorts of things. Get creative. And I actually kind of got this idea from a family member, a daughter, who takes her mom with her on her walks. And so she's got the video running, and mom, she said she would take, prior to the pandemic, she took mom in the wheelchair on the walks. And so the dog in the photo goes on the walks, and now they do video walks. I think that's phenomenal. Live stream walks. What else could you do? Live stream. And of course, you know this, but connecting people at the window, if you have to, do that for some reason, is always good, I think. Then how else could people be connected? How about good old fashioned letter writing? People of an older age are more used to that anyway. Maybe that would be a lovely thing to sort of resurrect. Who needs stationery? Who needs stamps? I know an activity director who carries with her all of that in a basket, and when she delivers the mail, she offers to the older person, would you like to send a card right now back to whoever they just received from? And the address is right there on the envelope. You don't have to look it up. But then on that note, the next part of the connectedness plan could be, where does Mrs. Smith keep her addresses? Do we all know? Are they handy? Do we need to find some? Do we need to make them more handy? So good. Could you take around cards more often, every day? Could you promote people sending cards and letters to their family or whomever? I'm sorry, it's a bad picture, but it's just meant to show, if you didn't know, being pen pals is kind of a big deal right now, especially with the teenagers and young adults. So this may or may not apply, but it's kind of fun. It's sort of like scrapbooking met letter writing. And so people just have gotten creative. And just a thought, like, could you offer this to some of the people who live where you work? Okay, now I'm going to transition into some other ways of keeping people connected, particularly in the building now, with you all predominantly. And I first want to share with you an idea called consider creating an expectancy of engagement. And I love just using this sort of silly example, but it's going to make the point. So if people were watching The Price is Right, let's say, and you or I, we could just walk by because this group of people is engaged. We could judge that that's engagement, right? Absolutely. But then I realized, what if I just went up to the TV and commented on whatever they're looking at, and said something to the group like, hey, Fred, what car did you drive? Or how much was your first car compared to this? Something to somebody or all the group. Play a little Vanna White. We all kind of know what that means, right? And most older people do too. And then I move on. So how many seconds did that take, everyone? I'd love for you to think about it. How many seconds? Some people have said 5, maybe 30. And then I thought, what if everyone who works in a nursing home did something like that? 5 to 30 seconds that they engage with people. Now, I know there's a whole thing about I got to get to the meeting and I'm late already. Totally get it. But, just what if we an expectancy when people come to work here, you now share with them that we expect you to engage residents. And this can be so beautiful, everyone, because think about it, in an institution in particular, to be honest, most people think they're not supposed to do that. Isn't that ridiculous? It's the home to these people, but you're not supposed to engage with them. That's kind of the message that the institution typically gives. A lot of people will say, I didn't know I could, let alone should, you know. Another way to think of it, everyone, is to give permission. Sometimes we've heard stories over the years. I didn't know it would be okay if I sat and visited or played dominoes for 10 minutes. I mean, you guys can create the expectancy of engagement. Isn't that great? So, yes, yep, give permission, maybe role model it yourself. That will go far, far, far. No matter what your job is, you know, if you are seen taking 10 minutes to play dominoes, you are role modeling engagement, or the Van White thing, whatever is in your personality. And then do consider as a team, what if we elevated it? We started to say, we want you to do this. We expect you to do this, right? In fact, I've seen this done. It's not even my idea. So I got to tell you two similar but different stories. How many of you have served a person in a nursing home who says, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me? And I'd love to ask you all, what is someone really saying when they say, help me, help me? It's not really that. What do you think the translation would be? Can you all give me either unmute yourselves, it's fine, we're a small group today, or tell me in the chat box. It's okay. I will just wait a minute. Help me, help me. What's someone really saying? See me. Yes, Kathy. I love it. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Kathy. To be honest, most people kind of translate it like this, everyone. Oh, she wants attention. And I want to just call that out. Nobody means this, but that language tends to be negative, right? Oh, she wants attention. and I don't think so. It's more than that. It's like what Kathy just said. Please, somebody see me. I think of connection. I love that word. How about you? Somebody connect with me. You can go friendship. Yes. Relationship. Yes. Even love, right? Good, good, good. So I got to co-author a book with a social worker who did this in her nursing home. She had everyone take a pledge. So at an all staff meeting, the first time, she's like, come on, everybody. And they repeated after her, I pledge to never walk by, let's say, Verna, without engaging her for at least 5 seconds. They repeated after her. It's so cool. It doesn't take much to engage with someone for 5 seconds, does it? And she had everyone pledge not to walk by Verna, but instead to engage her. And guess what she ended up saying? Less frequently. And then here's a similar story out of Fort Collins many years ago, Good Sam. Another person would say, help me, help me. And then they got the It's Never Too Late IM2L computer system where you can have your own profile page. You pull it up and all your favorite stuff is there. And one of her favorite things was to listen to Frank Sinatra. So instead of saying, help me, it turned into put on Frankie, put on Frankie. Isn't that great? And way better, I think, than help me, help me. Oh, so good. And speaking of that, you know, you see record players for sale again, everybody. They're for sale right now at Walmart. Perhaps more people need more record players. What do you think? And let's see. Also, yes, I'm here. It means I'm here. It could also mean I'm bored, I'm hungry, I'm lonely, I'm thirsty, I need interaction. It's so true, everybody. Thank you. All right. So then next, I would say, look at this. So I shared all this when I taught new activity directors at an activity professionals training course. And one of those students took it upon herself to go back to her building and created an oath against boredom. And when you come to work there and go through orientation, you have to take the oath against boredom. And I don't have her oath. I kind of wish I did, but I'm kind of glad I don't, because if you like this idea, you could go do it and you can make up your own oath against boredom or oath to engage for 5 seconds or whatever. Isn't that fun? And let's see, I just want to now transition to another idea that I learned from that nursing home I keep bringing up, Perm, Minnesota. They transitioned into the household model, and I got to study the household model. And we wrote a book called Vibrant Living, Inspirations to Energize Daily Life. And here's one thing that's in the book that we learned, and that is the idea of engaging people by tapping into what already interests them and what they already do. Now, hopefully you all know this, but it may be worth a reminder and passing this on to the rest of your team, even care planning it. So if a person watches a cooking show every day, why not be proactive and make sure all the right people know to ask, you know, Mrs. Smith what she watched in her cooking show around 2 o'clock during supper. Isn't that cool? So cool. I think it's just such a lovely way to, hey, did you see your grandkids today? Hey, did you watch their recital on Zoom today? Hey, Mary, did you talk to your husband on the phone today? Whatever they're into, whatever they do. Another one, if a person watches faithfully out the window like I do, you would know to ask me. Probably I would just tell you, I saw a cardinal today. I'm so happy, you know, but to tap into, hey, what'd you see out the window today? What'd you see at the bird feeder? Did you see any butterflies in the butterfly garden out the window? Squirrels. At this particular home, there was a woman who stayed up late to watch David Letterman. And it was music to my ears, you guys, when I heard staff say to me, well, she's done this her whole life, stayed up late. And so we don't wake her up in the morning. She wakes up around 9. We help her get dressed. She has a bit of coffee and toast. She doesn't want to eat a lot because she likes to then join everyone at lunch. So how could we tap into her interests? Of course, ask her at lunch, not breakfast, what is the funniest thing she heard, or what was the top 10? What does she remember of the top 10? You know, you get the idea. If a person sews in their room, tapping into that. What are you sewing? Could you bring it to show us? Could we come see it? What are you working on? If someone flips through their magazine all day, what's the latest recipe, car, craft, advice, whatever your thing is? Look at how this can keep going on. If a farmer or rancher or just anyone loves to watch the weather, what if they have the rain gauge out their window and you ask them how much did it rain? I think that's fabulous. Or you have a temperature gauge for more residents to see it, or like a wind sock where they can see what way the wind's going, flags, you know. And then again, ask about it. Another great story. A man was a comedian for his career, and lives in, I don't think it's Perm, but it's another household model. I've learned this through the Action Pack group that I work with a little bit. Famous story. So the team taking care of the man who was a comedian was so brilliant. They asked the wife to get with the rest of the family and remember all of her husband's jokes. And they wrote them all down, and the staff learned them, and they would say the whole buildup, right? But not the punchline. They would do the buildup, if that's what you call it. And then he would naturally give the punchline. And you know, when you give the punchline, you're the one that makes everybody laugh. Isn't that beautiful? I love that story. That is the most honoring story I think I know of. Okay, now transitioning to another way to connect. If I worked in any of your buildings, I would propose that we do this with each other. We could have a question of the day, or actually, I think I would propose a question of the week, because it gives you all time to ask each other the same question. And I would call them the getting to know you better questions. And I would challenge everyone to do this. And this is just my ideas, guys. There's probably a lot more you could add to it, but I've kind of learned that there's a few categories of how to get to know each other better. One might be facts about your life. So you could all ask each other this whole week, where were you born? In fact, let's do it. Everybody tell me in the chat, where were you born? I was born in Leavenworth, Kansas. And then you could keep going. The next week, where did you grow up in your, you know, pre-kindergarten years. You could divide it out however you want, wherever you raised. What elementary school did you go to? That could be the whole week. What middle school, if you did one, you know, did you go to? What high school did you go to? Did you go to college? Yes or no? You know the routine. Were you married? How long? Kids, just like let it go as far as you can think. How many cousins do you have? Have fun. And then another category might be favorites. You can turn anything into a favorite, right? What's your favorite weather? What's your favorite season? What's your favorite holiday? Go ahead and be broad. Sometimes, what's your favorite food? That's pretty broad. Other times, bring it down. What's your favorite ice cream? What's your favorite Mexican meal? Book, vacation, movie, hobby. Could go forever. Then I feel like the other category is some sort of discussion prompt, right? The one that tends to come to my mind is, if you could be an animal, which one would you be and why? I'd love to hear from somebody. And then guess what? I heard a different variation of this recently. Not which animal would you want to be, but now, ready? Which animal are you most like? What an interesting question. And I found for myself, everyone, that when I'm asked a question that I've never been asked before, that is really cool. My brain gets to do some work that it's never done before. So cool. And with that, let's see where a few people were born. Wow. Did you know Kathy Ziegenfelder was born in Wadsworth, Ohio? Marla was born in Fairbanks, Alaska. Woo, look at where everybody's from. Pam is from Hagerstown, Maryland. Brittany was born in Williston, North Dakota. Courtney, Apple Valley, California. Brittany, Buffalo, Wyoming. Oh, that's so much fun. And we now know each other better. Isn't that so cool? You all could do that every day, every week with everyone. Families are back, team members, agency, the corporate staff when they come through, and yourselves and the people who live there. Isn't that fun? Another idea would be to just use your phone, and someone could pull one up right now. Try pulling up discussion starting prompts, and someone give me one in the chat box just for fun. How about? That'll be great. So another thought, many of you represent the activities team, and even if you don't, I challenge you, okay? Just go into your activity office and look at all the books, and I'll bet you money there's a discussion prompting type of book in there. So you probably have it, and or y'all got a phone, right? So it's pretty easy. Then guess what? This is the best time of year to go get this kind of idea, prompts. You've all probably seen a gratitude journal. What are 3 things you're grateful for today? What if you did that with each other? What if you did that one week? Oh, I never thought of that before till now. The other thought is that maybe you offer some of these interesting journaling options to people who live there. And then you all know that Mr. Jones is trying to do his gratitude journal every day. And maybe you keep a sticky note, like on what day he's on. And whoever goes in would know, no matter what your job is, to ask Mr. Jones, hey, have you filled in your gratitude journal today yet? Would you like help? And maybe he has by the time you've seen him, and maybe he hasn't. So then the same idea, there's so many neat journals right now. The wellness journal, there's so many. The story of my life, how cool that you could help someone tell the story of their life. You all could, see, don't just put it on activities. You all could do this, get it in the care plan, let everybody know on the team that so-and-so is working on through this book. As you have time, ask the next question. Just think, you could do that with so many things. A joke book, a devotional book, right? So many things. Just a book that someone wants to read. There's so many. Here's a life bio memory journal. So many. I could go on. I'll switch it though. I also have learned it's really kind of cool to ask people what they're famous for. And you got to divide it into this. Like, what are you famous for in your family? Let's see, my grandma would maybe have said her baked beans, right? What are you famous for in your community? My grandma would probably say my baked beans. And this is the area in Minnesota I keep talking about. And then what are you famous for in your career? Well, my grandma didn't have that much of one, but she did run a resort for many years, and that's kind of cool, on a lake in Minnesota. I just happened to think of her. Now, some people get a little shy, a little gun shy with the word, what are you famous for, right? So quickly switch it over to what are you known for? And people tend to have, they're more able to answer that. What are you known for? Hey, Pam is giving us another good one. Who is your hero and why? I love it. Thank you. Brittany is saying, we do this when we read the news. We now have residents that bring their own discussion prompt. Is that right, Brittany? Super cool. Let me get through everything, guys, and maybe we can talk more. How about this? Don't learn it at the funeral. How many of you have gone to a funeral or read it in the obituary, something you did not know about a person whom you cared for many years? I think that's a travesty. How about you? Don't let it happen. We must learn more details about people's lives. And then I told you I would bring this up again. I contend everyone should have a wall that says who they are. And you all could do this. Now, I know that you say to families, to residents and families, you can decorate your half a room as you wish. I know you do. However, a lot of people don't really go to the extent they could. So I just want to offer the idea. If I were in your shoes, I would try to elevate this. You know, if you could mandate it, that's what if you could, I would. Now, I know I can't. But how close can I get? So I would have a type of discussion that, hey, daughter, we need to know your mom and we need to know her quick. You've known her your whole life. She's new to us. So we need your help. We need you to fill her walls with everything about her. You can make copies of stuff, leave the original at home. We could buy a curio cabinet, everybody. A curio cabinet, I would guess, is not that expensive. Either your nursing home could fund it or family if they're fine with that, so that if you feel like you need to lock some stuff up, which is a bummer, but it happens, then you could at least have people's things near them. So you get the idea. Guess what? My husband worked at a nursing home where they never knew that this man who was could have been Vietnam, I think, actually got the highest medal of honor you can get. The Silver Star for gallantry in action, and nobody knew it at the nursing home. How can this be? And the only way they found out is that he moved rooms, and my husband helped him move, and they found it. They're like, what's this? And my husband knew what it was because he was in the service. That cannot happen, everybody. Don't let that happen. And then another idea, what if you started asking people for their wisdom? Do you realize what else does an older person really have to give? They are not baking cookies or baked beans. They're not grilling or mowing the lawn. They're not helping you move. It's hard for older people to give, right? But what can they give typically, even living with dementia? Wisdom. So I used to go be with, notice I'm not saying visit. I used to go be with people that are older than me, my elders. And I took every mom and kid that I could for 9 years, actually twice a month for 9 years, and then actually a few more years, once a month. And we made it a point to just be together. And then we also would ask the same question of any resident that was there. So I'm going to give you an example. In November, I would always ask, what advice do you have for us, particularly the children? They're sitting in the middle of a circle with residents up higher around them. What advice would you give the children on living a thankful life? Are you ready? The best answer ever was this. A gentleman pointed to the kids and said, do the dishes. And that's my point. Our kids, all of us, need to hear wisdom from older people. And I have notebook after notebook of wisdom. You could do this, guys. You could ask wisdom for a good marriage, wisdom for raising kids, wisdom for raising high schoolers, teenagers, right? And whatever you do, start to imagine chapters, start to imagine people quoted in it. Are you going to want one of these books? Oh, yeah. Are your family members going to want one? Oh, yeah. Actually, they're going to want 20 if grandma is quoted in it. This could be a wonderful way to share wisdom and to have a fundraiser if you want. Look at this. So here we are. We would purposely shake hands and share names. This is before COVID, of course. Nobody panic. And I really advised our group to go slow. We took 15 plus minutes just to greet everybody. And sometimes my sweet daughter, she learned that sometimes you got to say your name 10 times. And the goal is to say it nice every single time. And then, so we would share names, greet each other. If children wanted to perform something, they could, but that was not the point. Older people get plenty of entertainment. That was not the point. In fact, it was more for the kids to have experience doing things in front of people. But the main reason we came was to ask for wisdom and advice. So I had the pleasure of going around the circle, asking each person. And I got to tell you a story before I forget. Speaking of people with the dementia and how they have a lot to offer. So every time I got to Harold, he was a former sheriff. Guess what? No matter what the question was, he always said this: well, don't cross the street by yourself and don't get into a car with a stranger. And it became not funny, it became precious to us. So as I'm coming to Harold, I'd look at the kids and go, I wonder what Harold's going to say, you know? And it became a special thing, not a making fun thing. And sure enough, maybe you'd ask him, what's your advice on how to spend money? And he'd kind of go, and then he'd go, well, all I know is don't get into the car with a stranger and don't cross the street. And then we go, there it is. Thank you, Harold. And we clap for each person. It was precious. And so my daughter started going at age 3 till pandemic, like age 15. And then I want to show you this. Eden, the baby Eden, that she is only 2 weeks old there. My friend Kimberly gave birth 11 times. Yep. And baby number 8 is Eden. And my friend handed her 2-week-old baby to Eileen. Is that not the greatest gift ever? We have got to encourage mamas to bring their babies, everybody. And then the baby got older, and in the bottom picture, she's 3. And I'm going to set you up. Who can guess how old Helen is? It's a big number. Eden is 3. Who can guess how old Helen is? I know you can do it. Here they come. Brittany, 95. You are hilarious. She's 100. 103. She's 103, everybody. And Eden was 3. One of the most precious photos I own, and I have permission to share. There is a century you're looking at right there, everybody. Isn't that profound? And then here's Eden, one of our last visits before COVID. She was 8 years old. And that's a different Eileen. And look at how we've taught the children to let people touch you, to hug, to hold, to shake hands. See my daughter Ellie hugging Jean. Jean also gave some of the best advice ever. Ready? She has a wig on right there. It would always be flopping around. It's just hilarious. I can tell you that because you don't know her. Jean, one day we asked how to be patient. Are you ready? She goes, well, you should learn what makes the people around you impatient and then not do that. I'm like, wow, are you smart? So let's all try to follow what Jean said. Yes, 103 and 3. Helen and Eden. Let's make them famous, shall we? All right, look at those chapters. How to be anything. How to be a good student. How to be a good cook. What do you guys want to know about? How to handle family and a job, right? How to keep the house clean when you're busy. How to handle a pandemic. How about that? That's what I would do. You could create your own wisdom book, your own chapters, and you've given older people an opportunity to give. Isn't that beautiful? Here's another fun thing. Do any of you remember these books? This one's called Grandma Tell Me Your Memories. And again, you know, you could get these kinds of books, flip through them, help people, answer them every day. I did with my grandma. And I really do mean this, guys. If you give it to your grandma, hey, grandma, will you please fill in every prompt? Thank you. Guess what? My grandma didn't do it for my cousins. I think there's something about I don't want to do that. But when I asked my grandma, then I could quote her. Isn't that great? And here's a funny one. Share a memory about a power outage. She says, we had a power outage all the time. It's that kind of stuff. That is so much fun to hear from your grandparents or older people, right? We asked, what toys did you play with? She goes, dirt and a spoon. Wow. And then I might suggest, besides the care plan, think of ways to communicate to everyone what this person is reading. Maybe they're working through a joke book, you know, every time. You could use a marker board. You could have a little note going into people's rooms. Why not? On the door, on the back of the door, whatever works. See, here's another reminiscing kind of book, remembering the good old days. You see the yellow sticky note as this as an example of working through a book. And then this is kind of funny, but have any of you been around long enough like me to remember back in the 90s, everyone had the same problem on the care plan. Remember, the first column was actually called problem. By the way, that's a problem. And thankfully, I don't see that as anymore. Most everyone uses point click care. Thank God they got the message and they call it a focus, right? It's not necessarily a problem, but it used to read potential for social isolation. And we just assumed everyone had the same potential, when in fact, the reg for activities is that it's not it's not about potential for social isolation. It's about what is this person's interest, period. And then I also raise this, everyone. I've noticed after the first year of the pandemic, everyone was saying, well, now we can't get them to come out of their rooms. And I just want to remind you to think about something. Who am I to say that it's best for someone to come out of their room? And that was even before a pandemic. I used to pop popcorn, so I would get so-and-so to the group activity. Well, so what, And then I grew up and realized, well, who am I to say you should come out of your room? Now, if you love popcorn, then I should just pop popcorn because you love popcorn, see? And here's another funny idea. What if someone loves horses? Well, you all know how to do this. Go get a horse to come. Have a horse in the yard, and don't tell anyone would be my thought. Let it be the talk of the morning. Like, did you see what was out the window? And then you predominantly do it for the person who loves horses. And guess what? Everybody else is going to come to see the horse. And to be honest, you just got everyone out of their room without trying. And I don't mean to be sneaky. I just mean to help people live life and to focus life around their interests. The next thing it read when the MDS showed up, remember, this problem changed to activity deficit. And I just want to ask, do any of you know what that is? I'm so glad. I hope none of you do that anymore. The focus is supposed to be interests. Ah, there it is. See, it's a long one sentence, and it all says, bottom line, you were supposed to meet the interests of each resident. Don't forget that. Also from the Eden Alternative, look at this. Principle 1, the 3 plagues of loneliness, helplessness, and boredom are actually what account for the bulk of suffering among elders. The bulk of suffering. What's another word for plague, everybody? Let's think a minute. I'm going to give you a chance. Ooh, yay. Courtney has done it with a horse. Yep, I know. You can all do it. Go get some horses. Wyoming, of all places. So what's another word for plague, everyone? Isn't that interesting? Kathy, we are like sisters. You think alike. That's right. Guess what? Pandemic is another word for plague. So we've had a pandemic going on way before the pandemic. 3 pandemics, in fact. I might get teary. Look how lonely people are. Look how bored. Guys, don't take offense. No activities team can help all residents not be bored ever. It's a broken system. And how many people suffer in silence about how helpless they feel. I just want to point that out. Wyoming, we can make a big splash about the 3 pandemics that were already in motion and maybe finally really do something about it, right? Okay, now, on that note, I might just suggest that you actually start asking people. I think we've been afraid to ask. Don't be afraid. because if we don't ask, we will not know. Mrs. Smith, how you doing with loneliness? How you doing with boredom? And are you having any feelings of helplessness? It happens. Just see what people say. You're going to get, oh, I'm not lonely, but I'm bored. I'm not bored, but I'm lonely, you know? And I feel very helpless. And only if you know how people feel, can you, it'll move you into action. But we typically don't ask. So just go ask. And then a little bit more about language. I mentioned it's really physical distancing, and it's really connection and see me, not needing attention or attention seeking. I even contend the word socialization is weird. I'm curious if you agree. Socialization. We even have the word normalization. Why do we have a weird word to explain normal? Someone tell me. And then another interesting observation. If you have an ice cream social, is it really social? Or is it really just eating ice cream? Either help it be truly social, get questions rolling like we kind of talked about, or just call it eating ice cream. And we've done a lot with language. If I had more time, I'd go through more language, but let me close here. I encourage you to just go beyond what we normally do. Get outside the MDS box, get outside of your corporate assessments. Maybe think about having coffee and really getting to know someone. Go deeper. Ask for more details from the person first, if you can, and then the family. And even think of words, you know, you use. And let's really flip this thing and get better at coordinating connectedness than we've ever been. And I want to thank Star Valley, South Lincoln, and Granite. Woo-hoo! You guys are on the line, and you're in the first year of the project, and you're remained in the project. Sadly, 2 homes had to drop out. We understand. And woohoo! Welcome to Life Care Center of Casper and Wyoming Retirement. They both joined midway, and to honor them, they are going to stay in the project through the 2nd year. So to bless them for joining midway, which can be hard, they're going to be unique that they'll be doing this for a year and a half. Let me invite you all to the March Madness. I don't watch basketball, but guess what? In this grant, we were going to do a 1-day conference. It's now a 1-month online conference. Every Tuesday is a speaker on these subjects that we're paying money to teach. It's going to be so good. They're going to do 45 minutes of content, 15 minutes of questions. We're actually going to take a break for 15, and then another 45 and 15 with answered questions. We're also having special sessions, 10 of them. The first one will actually be for residents. I want you all to be aware of this, to invite a resident or 2 to come be a part of a Zoom special session where I'll be leading the special sessions. And then the next one will be with families. And I wanted to try to do this with residents and families first so that I can inform the rest of the sessions. There's one for activities, recreation, one for social services, the next one for dining, for therapies, nursing, environmental services, surveyors. We've actually invited ombudsmen to attend whichever one they want in order to honor the fact that they are trying to serve everybody. And that's a unique role and they're proud of it. And administrators. So I'm going to be sending out invitations to all these very soon so you can get them on your calendar. And I need to remind all of you, on March 25th, it'll be the last webinar in this first year, and you are going to share what you did in this first year. So please just be mindful of that. We'll figure out how many minutes everyone gets. Please also remember we have 2 big goals: that everyone working in a nursing home learns about culture change. We need your help. Everyone's welcome to look at these recordings if that helps. Another big goal is that everyone who lives in a Wyoming nursing home is not woken up, but their sleep is honored. We're working through changing language. And so I've just added some language from this webinar about connection. And our next webinar a month from now is going to be on ideas on building community, even during crises. How do you like that? Basically, it's about community meetings. So let me open it up to any questions or ideas at the last here. Woohoo! Thank you, Brittany. We are so excited to be in the project. Bless you. Any question, anybody, any idea, anything. All righty. I need to let you go. Thank you, Wyoming. Woohoo! Thank you. Thank you. Here's the culture change.